If you want to make more money than 99% of people, then it's simple. You have to do what 99% of people won't do and what the 1% do best. Now that's the obvious part, but knowing what to do and how to do it, that's a little bit trickier. So today I'm going to share with you the principles that I used to make my first $1, my first 6 and 7 figures in profit online. And I really don't say that to brag. I actually don't like talking about my income, especially online. Now these are the 7 principles that you have control over, but it wouldn't be fair to share this without mentioning the principle that's much less in your control: luck. Throughout my life, I've gotten very lucky. I've read the right books at the right time. I've watched the right videos and learned from the right people. I have the best mother and the best brother that I could have ever asked for. I've made investments at perfect moments and many other circumstances that could all be attributed to luck. Without a doubt, luck has helped me grow my income to over 7 figures in profit after tax. But growing up in a single mother household, like many of you, I'm sure, or when we were homeless for over half a year and slept in friends' basements, I've had my fair share of disadvantages as well. So luck or not, most of the success that I've had has been from following these 7 principles and positioning myself to become even more lucky. To me, luck is a choice, and the more you position yourself with these 7 principles, the luckier you get. Now, to achieve your own goals, you have to be able to follow your own unique path. And while it might look similar to someone else's path at times, you'll never follow the exact same path as they did. Your path to making over $1 million is going to look different to mine, even if we're using the exact same business model or same investing strategies. It's always going to be slightly different for everyone. This makes it difficult to find your way because while you might know where you want to get to, it's hard to see a clear path to get there. This is where you'll encounter principle number 1, intuition. Intuition is your built-in decision-making system that lights up the path to your goals before you, leading you to where you want to go. It's that feeling when your gut calls you and pulls you in a specific direction. Now, the mind loves to follow predefined paths, which are just ways that other people have already achieved their goals. These paths are great because they reveal one method for reaching a particular goal. For example, I can share the paths that I've used to make 7 figures in the businesses that I've done. The issue comes in when you don't leave room for intuition. My income has grown the most when I follow the paths that are led by others, but then listen to my own intuition for moments when I can deviate and start creating my own individual path. When you've chosen a business vehicle or a method for achieving your goals, it helps to start by following someone else's path. But as you continue along that path, your intuition acts as a compass to guide you each step of the way and leads you along the fastest trail to your own goals. Intuition sounds very elusive and hard to measure, and it can be especially hard to listen to your own intuition when you have fear, excitement, or even boredom in the mix. So I've used several tools to increase my ability to listen to myself and increase my perception to that intuitive calling. First is by making the decision that I listen for and listen to my own intuition. But just deciding that it'll be part of who I am and how I make decisions, I can prepare myself to catch those intuitive pulls. Second is to practice emptying my mind so that I can hear that faint voice of intuition even better. The more distractions that I eliminate and the more that I focus on what I actually want, the better I can listen to my intuition. I usually achieve this with some form of meditation, which has been instrumental in clearing out my mind. I've found that even 10 minutes a day makes a huge difference, and it can truly help to rebalance your focus, and it gets me back on track and focused on where I want to be going. Now, this doesn't have to be a traditional meditation. It can be a walk in the park or maybe taking a drive. Those can be just as effective in clearing your thoughts. Listening to intuition has allowed me to take advantage of opportunities that would have normally seemed unreasonable, but actually enabled me to take the fastest path to my own success. Now, while that sounds great and intuition can save you a lot of time and effort, there's no use in following intuition if you can't put it into practice with principle number 2, which is the law of replacement. To get results like the 1% get, it isn't about adding new habits and activities to your schedule, but rather replacing what you currently do. Let's face it, if you're not where you want to be in life, there's obviously things that you're doing and that you're not doing that need to change. Out of the 24 hours that we have each day, there's about 1,000 minutes that you can spend outside of sleeping. You'll spend some of these minutes eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, socializing, or getting groceries, and basic everyday activities. And even after all of that, you'll still have around 600 minutes to spend on yourself. Now, how you spend these minutes determines who you are and how much money you make. Many people have traditional jobs that take up a significant amount of time throughout the day, only leaving them with a little time to work on their businesses and personal growth, which they usually end up spending scrolling social media or watching Netflix. The point here is that you have to be willing to replace habits and activities that you currently have with new ones. Everyone from the highest performers to the lowest performers have the same 1,000 minutes every day, but the way that we spend them dramatically changes who we become. Those who are making over $1 million in profit waste way less of their precious minutes on things that don't make them money. It's not about creating habits out of thin air, it's about replacing old habits that consume your time. We all make time to eat. We all make time to sleep. We make time to finish the shows that we're watching on television, but it's really painful to make time to work on something that doesn't guarantee an outcome. You can see face-melting progress if you replace even 1 hour a day of bad habits with good ones every day for a year. So you can ask yourself, what are you willing to give up in order to realize your goals? Ladies and gentlemen, when I started my own 7-figure dropshipping businesses, I learned that if I wanted to make over 7 figures in profit, I had to be willing to sacrifice. Now, we've all heard about how important goal setting is, but if we can just set the right goals, eventually we'll get there. Having goals means that you have a direction to go in, and it's absolutely an essential part of your success. Everybody has goals. 99% of people have goals and never reach them. So what makes the 1% actually reach their goals? Instead of just writing down a list of goals, also write down what you're going to sacrifice for the goal as well. Everyone on earth has the goal of making more money. That's not a unique goal in any way. If the only requirement was to have the goal, everyone would be a millionaire. But the top 1% understand that it isn't about the goal, it's about what it takes to reach the goal. The goal is to make the sacrifices necessary to reach the goal. So when I write out something that I want to do, I put it on my goals page. I'll also write down what I need to do to reach each goal on another. This is my sacrifice list. What I'm going to give in order to get what I want. You can't expect to get anything without first being prepared to give. There's no such thing as getting something for nothing. This has been a principle for hundreds of years. It's written about in the Bible many times, but specifically in the book of Luke. It says, "Give and it will be given back to you." The portion you give will determine the portion you receive in return. You have to be able to give and sacrifice before anything is given in return to you. I've always gotten back more than I put in many times over. Now, in the pursuit of any goal, failures are inevitable. Sometimes it just won't play out how you envision, and the way that you handle these failures determines if it's an actual failure or not. You get to decide your relationship to failure. Everyone who tries to reach an ambitious goal, like earning over $1 million in profit, will encounter many failures along the way. Those who choose to view failures as what they actually are, which is slight course corrections, will be accelerated towards their goals. Instead of just avoiding failure, embracing it allows you to encounter these course corrections sooner, which leads you to find the right path and reach your goals sooner. Most of the time, there's only 2 fears around failure. We're not even scared of failure itself, but we're scared of what other people will think about our failures, and we're afraid of the potential losses that can occur when failure happens. To deal with the judgment of others, realistically, they're never thinking about you to begin with. They only care about themselves and their own lives. And if they do judge you, the best and the only revenge for that is success, because you're only a failure after you've given up. You might also be afraid of the potential losses of time and money if you were to fail. Just remember that everything you temporarily lose in pursuit of your goal is only actually lost if you give up. All of the time and the money that you sacrifice feels like a loss in the short term, but it's a necessary building block to get you to the next level. If you never invest the time or money, you'll never learn the lessons that you need to. Hours that feel wasted are hours that you'll be paid for. Money that you invested and seems lost always comes back tenfold. When you put in the effort to move towards your goals, the effort itself opens up doors that you might not recognize as success in the short term. When I started my 7-figure e-commerce businesses, I would spend time on things such as launching stores that only lost money and never made any sales, or I'd make videos that never got any views, I'd make ads that never performed, or I designed products that never sold, all of which could have been seen as short-term failures and a lot of lost time. But all of that effort paid off indirectly by viewing it not as a failure, but instead as part of the work that needed doing, even if it was the wrong work in the short term. Everyone who appears to be standing on a huge mountain of success in reality is standing on a mountain of failures, with only a few key successes that make up for all of the failures. Failure is uncomfortable, but it's made much easier with a good understanding of the next principle that helped me make my first $1 million online, and it's understanding risk. Risk is the possibility of losing something of value in exchange for the possibility of a return that's much higher. In the moment, risk feels bad because of the potential loss of your initial investment of time or money. But this is a natural pain to feel, and in fact, you're already taking risks with just as much downside whether you know it or not. Risk is a double-edged sword where it might feel like you're risking a lot to have the chance of reaching your goals, but you might be assuming just as much risk by not taking advantage of the opportunities before you. Instead of looking at risks as all of the potential time and money you might lose in pursuit of your goal, consider the downside to not reaching your goal. For example, when I quit my full-time job to go all in with my e-commerce business, even before it really took off, I was risking my annual salary, but if I stayed at that job, it would have been a much riskier decision. I risked a year of my salary for the chance to make a few $1 million online. Not everyone can or should do that, but for me, it felt like a disproportionate risk. If you're looking to make $10,000 to $100,000 a month online, but you have to invest 12 months of time and effort and some money to get things started, it can feel like there is a lot to lose. The downside is the 12 months of time and the initial monetary investment that you risk wasting if you decide to give up. But you have to weigh the cost of not reaching your goal as well, which in this case, the risk for not pursuing that goal is costing you $10,000 to $100,000 a month. Now, not every decision is this black and white. Just recognize that risks are taken in both directions. Everything you do has a risk to it. If you do start your business, but you choose to cut corners and reduce costs too much, do things the cheap way, it might look like you're saving money in the short term, but it could be costing you the speed of growth or reaching your goals altogether. Changing your relationship to risk will help you calculate it better and make decisions and take risks despite being uncomfortable with them. I'm not immune to risks. I just take risks despite being uncomfortable with them. Now, this next principle is a very practical way to get yourself in a position to implement these 7 principles that helped me make over $1 million in profit. Most of the principles we've looked at so far don't work so well if you have low levels of energy and attention. So the most powerful way of regenerating your energy is by fasting. Not traditional fasting where you stop eating for several days, though I do think that's helpful. I'm talking about dopamine fasting or dopamine detoxing as a mental fast. Whenever you have trouble making progress towards your goals, or you feel stuck and like you're unable to make progress, it's because you're drained of your vital energy and attention. The most valuable asset you have is your attention. And if it's getting sucked away by TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube and all these platforms, how can you expect to have any juice left, any motivation or desire left to grow your business? The truth is that you won't. Even if you think you're relaxing or just taking a small break and watching some content, you're draining your energy levels and attention. Think about the people that you look up to most. How much time do you think they're spending on social media each day? Probably some, just not very much. I like to block out time for good habits and taking uncomfortable risks and making sacrifices. I like to plan to have time to go on social media, and I also plan to have time to go on fasts and dopamine detoxes. When you stop spending your energy in ways that drain it, you can channel it into success. By depriving yourself of Netflix and video games, social media, and candy, even if it's just for short periods throughout the day, you'll start to crave those kind of rewards so much that focusing on your goals and growing your income becomes fun to do. If you currently find working on your business boring and draining, it might be worthwhile to take a dopamine fast, spend a couple days without social media and easy entertainment. When I was growing my 7-figure e-commerce businesses, I would block out social media and any cheap entertainment until I had put in at least 4 hours of productive work each day. This gave me laser sharp focus while I was working, and I still got to enjoy entertainment at the end of the day. Now, to be completely honest with you, I'm far from perfect when it comes to following these 6 principles because they're hard to follow, but there's one that I never fail to use. If you can only follow one principle, the most important of them all is number 7. And this is the one principle that I never fail to use, and it's to apply. Even though all of these other principles have been crucial to my success, the only thing that matters is applying what I learn to the real world. Everyone has access to the same information. Everyone has a roughly equal playing field online. So the difference between those who reach their goals and make millions online and those who don't is that the 1% actually put in the work. The first 6 principles don't mean anything if there's no action behind them. You have to place one foot in front of the other and move towards your goals so that things can start falling into place. The work just won't do itself. If you take nothing else from this video, just understand the very best thing you can do if you want to make millions of dollars is to just do the work.